From the studios in San Diego, California, this is Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network, coming to you live here on this Tuesday, the 17th day of 2017. A big Tuesday coming for you today after missing yesterday's show. By the way, happy Martin Luther King Day. As we missed our discussion about the NFL's divisional playoff week, so we'll start off with that. Of course, we've got the Knicks today, also a little bit of hockey towards the end of the program today with the New York Islanders. But we'll begin, of course, with the NFL's divisional week, which started off pretty much the way you would have expected it to start off. Saturday's games really were not the games that you were looking at. You were looking at Sunday all week. You got pretty much what you would have expected to get. Atlanta. I mean, I said it on Friday. Atlanta's offense is just too good. That and coupled with the fact that Seattle on offense and on defense have been too one inconsistent and too unpredictable that you could almost sense that this game was going to go Atlanta's way, and it was going to go Atlanta's way big. And that's what it did, going 36-20. You also had the New England Patriots actually covering that 15-point spread against the Houston Texans. Again, another result that everybody knew was coming. I believe I said that. What did I say? I believe I said that there was absolutely no scenario that you can imagine the Houston Texans winning that game, and that pretty much was the way the game sorted itself out. There really was no scenario from pillar to post where the Houston Texans were going to come out on top. That was always going to be the Patriots game from start to finish. But then you get to Sunday, which was definitely the two games to watch, being the Packers and the Cowboys and the Steelers and the Chiefs. We'll start with the Steelers and the Chiefs, mainly because the second game was probably going to be the game of the postseason. This game, it's hard to win games just kicking field goals. I mean, that just goes to show one. It goes to show a couple things. It goes to show one that your kicker's pretty doggone good. I mean, the guy got what, 6 field goals in the game. Your defense has to be pretty doggone good in order to allow you to try to escape with just leading by field goals. That it also shows that there is questions in the offense. Roethlisberger threw 20 for 31 for 224. That's not bad, especially on a bummed ankle. Le'Veon Bell, actually, hold on. Le'Veon Bell ran 30 yards for 30 attempts for 170 yards. That is a very good game for Le'Veon Bell. And Antonio Brown, 6 catches for 108 yards. James had 5 catches for 83. Though that is good games from your star players, they just could not get it into the end zone, which is a goal, which especially against the Patriots is going to be a problem. You are not going to be able to win a football game against the New England Patriots by scoring just field goals. There is no way on God's green earth that is going to be the case. You are going to need to score touchdowns. You are going to need to put big points up on the board if you want to beat Tom Brady and the Patriots, who, as I predicted at the beginning of the year, as a lot of people predicted at the beginning of the year, that when Brady got back to that team, he was going to be on a mission to get to and win Super Bowl 51, and that is exactly the situation that has come up. I mean, the Patriots are 14-2, 14-2 this year. Um, Brady's been phenomenal. I mean, the guy threw as many interceptions as the team had losses this year, just to show you how dominant that he has been. That and you look at the new, and then you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have had at points this year have been questionable on offense, have been questionable on defense at points this year. They had that game against Baltimore. Granted, that was a game where Roethlisberger was coming back from injury, but that was a game that they didn't really kick it into gear until the fourth quarter. They have not had much problem moving the ball this year. Have Pittsburgh, but they have had a problem putting points on the board. 11th 11th in points. You wouldn't consider that being a problem. 11th in average points for per game with just under 25. They have shown this year that they can be held to low point totals, and they can have a hard time putting points on the board. They were held to 3 against the Eagles, held to 15 against the Dolphins, held to 16 against the Pats already this year. That granted, that was a game. That was one of the games where Roethlisberger was out. Held to 14 against Baltimore. I mean, they have shown this year that they can be held when they need to be held. Kansas City, that was a game where their offense just did not show up. Ware runs 8 times for 35 yards. Smith goes 20 for 34 at 172. Kelsey, 5 catches for 77. Beyond that, Macklin had 2 catches for 28. That was a game again where the Chiefs offense just did not show up. And then you get the Packers in Dallas. The game of the week, more likely than not going to be the game of the postseason for the NFL this year. I am seeing I mean, it's a lot easier now to see a Green Bay New England Super Bowl. I don't think that Super Bowl is going to be better than this game. This is probably going to go down as the best game of the playoffs. To see the Packers go up by, would they go up by 17? For Dallas to recoup that loss all in the fourth quarter, and then in the last 5 minutes of that game to watch those two teams to trade field goals, was absolutely incredible. This is a loss for Dallas that does not and should not go on Dak Prescott. Because while you can make the argument and say, oh, well, Tony Romo never would have gotten that far behind, one, you're not putting Tony Romo in that game. I'm sorry. I don't believe, I don't believe that if they see the game slipping away, which the game was slipping away, they were down 28-13. That game is gone. You have lost that game. I heard all week, oh well, if they see the game starting to slip away, then they'll switch to Romo. I didn't see that coming, and it didn't. I think fortunately for Dak Prescott, it didn't. And not only did Prescott and that Cowboy defense, mostly the defense, let that game slip away, but Prescott brought it back. Prescott to Dez Bryant. Those are the two guys that you want to see working well together the most, and those two brought it back. Des Bryant with 9 catches, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then you had the old guy, Jason Witten, 6 catches for 59 and a touchdown. Prescott goes 24 for 38, 302, 3 touchdowns. Prescott brought this game back again. And honestly, if they were going to, if they had any question about Prescott, and if you had any thought that the Dallas Cowboys were bringing Tony Romo back next year, Romo would have started the third quarter. If Dallas said, well, maybe we're going to bring Romo back, all of that was erased when he does not start in the fourth quarter, in the third quarter, coming out of the half. If he starts coming out of the half, at that point, that one, Romo might return to the team next year. They don't fully trust Prescott, and it's going to be a fight to see who's going to be the starter in Dallas next year. But instead, they let Prescott run with it. Very smart. It's his team. And he brought them all the way back. That game is not on Prescott. That game would not have, the result of that game would not have been any different if Tony Romo was in there. What you saw on Sunday was an exhibition by one of the coolest customers in the NFL and one of the top 2 quarterbacks this league has right now in Aaron Rodgers. I saw him go out. When they had the camera on him going out for that last drive when Crosby kicked the game winner. I'm sitting there looking at him. I'm like, he looks like he's going out there for the first drive of the game. He was cool. He was calm. It was as if he'd done it 1,000 times before. The catch by Adams was incredible, and good job on the back judge for overruling the call of incomplete catch. Very, very good officiating right there, and that is something that you do not hear often. That was an incredible job by the official to overrule the official that called incomplete immediately. And you saw clear as day from that replay, his toes were in. That was clearly a catch. Clearly a catch. Or was it Cook, or it was Cook, I'm sorry. And Aaron Andrews. See, here's the thing. I don't like sideline reporters. I really don't. Guys like say out here in San Diego, Mark Sweeney, or Steve Gelbs in New York for the Mets. That's fine. But when you're interviewing people on the field, that's that I got a problem with. Aaron Andrews, who is very experienced and should know better, honestly. What were, said something along the lines of, "What were your thoughts?" Oh, by the way, that was a 35-yard catch instead of a 36. What does it matter? Why do you have to tell Aaron Rodgers that on the field while you're interviewing him? Why is that important for him to know that that pass was one less yard than what he thought it was? Why is that important? And I mean, and she did what every on-field reporter does after a game. How do you feel? We won. I'm good. I mean, it's again. I said I like her. She should have known better in that spot. So again, this was by far and away the best game of the weekend. And I believe by far and away will be the best game of the playoffs this year. So now you have Pittsburgh versus New England, Atlanta versus Green Bay, and the winner of those two games will head to Super Bowl 51. Like I said, I know I'm gonna repeat myself on Friday, but I really have a feeling it's gonna be New England and Green Bay. I don't see Atlanta. Green Bay is good. Green Bay is incredibly good. I don't see Atlanta knocking Green Bay off. And to be perfect, I really do not have any faith in Pittsburgh to knock off New England. I really don't. But more analysis on that later in the week. We'll take a quick break. We'll get to the Knicks when we return. You're listening to Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network. All right, we're back. You're listening to Frank Fired Up here on the Big Step Sports Network. As we continue down this road, of which there is no winners and of which there really is only one way, with the New York Knicks, it's becoming increasingly difficult to not become discouraged and not to become annoyed with the current state of affairs that this team is in, from Carmelo Anthony's blow up in the locker room after losing to the freaking 76ers to Derrick Rose going completely AWOL. Sorry. From Derrick Rose going completely AWOL before a game. Um, I mean, there really is. This team has just continued a downward spiral that is at some point, hopefully, going to find a bottom. But then again, these are the New York Knicks, and there really is no bottom to find. Um, this whole thing now with Carmelo Anthony talking about Phil Jackson and trying to get traded and this and that. After yesterday's game, Courtney Lee puts out a picture of Dumb and Dumber, which you would have to assume that picture, by the way, has since been deleted. Um, Either referring to Jackson and Hornacek or Hornacek and um, the assistant coach whose name escapes me. The assistant coach whose name escapes Kurt Rambis. Um, this Knicks team has probably been. This team has to be at its most dysfunctional, at least since the finals against the Rockets. This team has to. I mean, this has to be the point, doesn't it? As a Knicks fan, you would hope it is. They're really. Can you honestly? And I make fun of the Jets a lot, but being a Knicks fan, I get it. For being as dysfunctional as they are, there has to be a limit. There has to be a limit on how dysfunctional a franchise can be, and if there is, we see how bad the Jets are, we see how bad the Knicks are, and they still haven't found the limit. Because every day it's something new. It's something worse every single GD day. That makes this team seem more dysfunctional, more broken apart, more dissension, and a lot of this has to do with the fact that, one, these players are getting way too much. These players have a lot more than what they deserve, and that is evident in many ways in the NBA. Do you think, I mean, do you honestly think that, what's his name, for the coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers, do you honestly think that he coaches that team? Do you honestly think that he coaches that team? God, no, he doesn't coach that team. It's LeBron James that coaches that team. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. He is there as a Tyronn Lue is there if he is there for he's there as a placeholder. He's there he's the head coach in spirit. He's the head coach on a technicality because you have to have a coach. You know LeBron James is running that team. You know LeBron James is running that team. There is a major divide right now, and you see it in the post-game press conferences. You see it in the way they play on the court. You see it in, remember the picture that was put out a couple of weeks ago where Carmelo Anthony starts running a play that Hornacek didn't want him to run, and Hornacek just turns his head in disgust? Remember that from a couple of weeks ago? There is a divide between the suits and the players. There's a divide between the front office and the players. There is a divide between the coaching staff and the players. There is a divide seemingly between the players. This starts at Phil Jackson, who continues to prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that he is the worst executive in the history of the NBA. Listen, you can coach a team. You can coach a team of players. That has been made very, very obvious. 6 championships with Michael Jordan. Do you have 3 or 4 with Kobe Bryant? Trust me, we know you can coach a team. Picking players and actually making these players work in the same system, you cannot do. You are absolutely horrendous at that. He can't do it. Under Phil Jackson, who was supposed to be, who was billed as the be-all, end-all when it came to basketball, the Knicks have had their worst season in franchise history last year and are at a level of dysfunction that is so far even beyond Jet-esque that it is ruining this team. And what's making it worse is the fact that the NBA players have as much power as they do. To give you an example of that power, Carmelo Anthony has been here for 5 years, and the Knicks have had 5 different coaches. You're kidding, right? Please tell me you're kidding. And now you have questions in the locker room whether or not Anthony's going to get traded. He said he wants to stay, which this is typical Carmelo Anthony. The year he was a free agent, he was saying, I don't know if I want to stay, this and that, and everyone wanted him back. Before that, everyone wanted him gone, and he said, no, I want to stay a Knick. Then he becomes a free agent. Everyone wants him to come back. He wants to leave. He comes back, and now everyone wants him to go in the worst of ways, and now he wants to stay. As I said, what did I say? I said it on Friday, right? Carmelo Anthony, the Knicks will never win with Carmelo Anthony. He is a hindrance. Add Phil Jackson to that list. You can't kick Hornacek out after half a season. With this roster and with this much dysfunction, are you really going to tell me that this is your head coach's fault? No, 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 no. This is the front office's fault. And I started to mention it last week or 2 weeks ago. James Dolan, who was lauded in this town for how, I believe lauded is the correct word, who is, let's use good words here, who was sorry, I had a problem with the mic there. James Dolan, who was hated in this town for how much he had his sticky little fingers in everything the Knicks did, and the team wasn't winning. Then, after the Rangers made it to the Stanley Cup Finals, a team that I didn't even know he owned, he said, "You know what? Let me step back. The hockey people are working with the hockey team, and the hockey team's being success is having success. Let me step back from the basketball team. Let me hire basketball people. Let me let the basketball people do what the basketball people do. And maybe we'll have success." From a guy who we wanted to have absolutely no part in this team, we are begging for the days for him to come back. James Dolan, get your grummy little fingers all up in this mess again, because seriously, if you want to say Stephon Marbury, I'll give you that. I will give you the time that Stephon Marbury was with this team. But under Carmelo Anthony, this team has been more dysfunctional than it has been in 20 years. From top to bottom, it has been more dysfunctional. I understand players do not stay with teams long anymore, but the Knicks have changed in the time that Carmelo Anthony has been here. The Knicks have changed every position, have changed players at every position two and in some cases three times over while Carmelo Anthony has been here from the time he got here to now. They have changed them in two, three, and in some cases four times over. The point guards, they had Raymond Felton. They went from Felton to Lynn to Calderon, back to Felton, and now they're on Derrick Rose. Shooting guard, they went from Landry Fields to Iman Shumpert, and now they're at Courtney Lee, and he's not even playing anymore. Power forward, they went from Amare Stoudemire, now they got Porzingis. Center, they went from freaking from Camby to O'Quinn, now to Noah, for Robin Lopez. The guy's been here for 5 years, and these positions have changed hands 4 or 5 different times. That's once a year. There's no stability in this team. 5 different coaches, up to 5 different players at one position. Multiple executive changes, a general manager who sits there with a general manager plaque on his desk and does nothing else other than that because it's Phil Jackson who's making all the calls. Players running rampant. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know what they're going to say next. You don't know what night they're going to give effort. They have no plan on offense. They have absolutely no defense. They have no stability, a coach with no voice, an executive who has no idea what he's doing. and they're expected to win. They're expected to make the playoffs. With how many personalities are on this team, and with how many personnel changes, and with how so many people are so out of touch, not just with the team, but with each other. How this team, how this entire team wears the same jersey for a game is beyond me. How they know their way to these arenas is beyond me. Nobody knows anything. Nobody's good at anything. One guy makes a decision, he's getting called out from the top. Again, you have players giving no effort, players that don't care, a head coach that doesn't have any power, an executive who has no clue, and an owner who has washed his hands of everything because he said, you know what, I'll let the basketball people handle it. You know what? Your basketball people are handling it, and they are handling it right down the drain. And somehow, through all of this dysfunction, through all of this confusion, through all of these arguments, through all of these negative tabloids, through all of this negative attention, through the 10 losses in the last 12 games, through all of that, because this is the NBA and because this is the Eastern Conference, they are still 3 games out of a playoff spot. I uh, if they were in the West, they'd be 6.5 out of a playoff spot in ninth. Now they're in what, 10th? Now they're in what, 11th? 3 games out of a playoff spot. Through all of this could still be a playoff team. God help them if they get that far. Talk about a surprise move made by the Islanders when we return. You're listening to Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network. All right, we're back. You're listening to Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network. Getting down towards the end of the program here. Um, with it being January, and it's getting pretty deep into January now, a little bit more than halfway through. Um, school should be starting soon. Actually, starts on the 30th, which is not next Monday. It's the Monday after that. Um, my classes do range until 2:45 every Monday and Wednesday. So, in order to avoid doing what I did last semester, which was do my Tuesday and Thursday shows at 3 and then the other ones at 2, I mean, at Pacific time, uh, doing the Tuesday and Thursday shows at 6 and then every other show at 5. I think I'm just going to knock it all back. Um, starting next Monday, Frank Fired Up will be at 6 o'clock Eastern Time if you want to catch it live. Of course, it's up here on YouTube forever. If you do miss it live, but starting next Monday, if you're a fan of listening to it live, it'll be starting at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, live next Monday, to try to help work with my school schedule a little bit. So my first day of school is the Monday, the day after the Pro Bowl. So you got that. Really quick to the NHL. The Islanders made a move today, or made an announcement today, that they have fired their head coach, Jack Capuano. They will be replacing him with former Islander and assistant to the general manager, Doug Waite. The Islanders, who advanced to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs last season, are 17, 17, and 8, which is good enough to hold stone dead last in the Eastern Conference. The move is rather odd because they just came off of a 4-0 win yesterday against the Bruins. It was time. By far, it was time. Capuano had to go. And I understand Capuano's been the coach of this team for just over 7 calendar years now. But it was time. Capuano had to go. I understand you lost Franz Nielsen, who's going to be an all-star this year. I understand you lost Kyle Oposo, who's an all-star this year. But you get those players back through Ladd and Jason Chimera. Those were their replacements. Ladd has done nothing. Chimera has done nothing. You've lost complete control of your goaltender situation, mainly because of Halak's agent. This team is vastly, vastly, vastly underachieving this year. This team should not be 17, 17, and 8 this year. This is a team that at this time last year was in the running for the President's Trophy, which is the most points by any team in the league. They were the President's Trophy leaders by this time last year. Just to show how much this team has trailed off. Another thing this says to me, honestly, what this says is if you're not bringing in a coach to replace Capuano, you are bringing in the assistant to the general manager as an interim. To me, for a last place team, that means the season's over. And all of these trades and all of these talks about, oh, the Islanders need to trade for Matt Duchene, oh, the Islanders need to trade for Gabriel Landeskog, all of that stops. Honestly, for me, all of that stops now. What the Islanders have done in the middle of January, to me, what the Islanders have done in the middle of January is they have pulled the plug on the season. They're not going to they're not going to give players away here, but they are not going to be in contention. You look at the Colorado Avalanche right now, who are 13-27-1. Matt Duchene's getting wasted there. Gabriel Landeskog, who's 21 years old and is already the captain of that team, he's being wasted there. So to pick up guys like that would be a fantastic move if the Islanders were a playoff team. They're not. The Islanders are not a playoff team. They are the worst team in the Eastern Conference. They are the third worst team in the league, ahead of only the aforementioned Avalanche and Arizona. They're 1 point worse than the Sabres and 2 points worse than the Jets, the Stars, and the Red Wings. Granted, the Islanders have only played 42 games. Buffalo's played 43. Winnipeg's played 47. Dallas has played 45. Detroit's played 44. So the Islanders do have games in hand. And the Islanders do play Dallas tomorrow night. Or Thursday night. But again, what this says to me, the fan watching, the fan who pays a lot of attention to this team, this tells me the season's over. Those Duchene trade talks, those Landeskog trade talks, all of that stops until the offseason. There really, as far as I know, there really is no coach available right now for the Islanders to replace Capuano with. So it looks as though Doug Waite's going to be the coach for the rest of the year. The Islanders are going to finish stone dead last in the East with an underachieving team, and they're going to get a top 5 lottery pick. Again. For a team that looked Stanley Cup ready last year to a team that is back to where they were 3 years ago. Islander fans, I hope you enjoyed the ride because it looks like it's over. Oh, that, and you have to worry about signing John Tavares this offseason also. And finishing stone dead last in the East again is one way to really entice him to come back. So that'll do it for me today. I will see you guys tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern. You've been listening to Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you guys tomorrow.